Welcome! I see you've managed to survive another week without accidentally deleting your own consciousness. A remarkable feat, considering your species spends over 27 hours every single month on YouTube searching for digital pacifiers. Artifact 1, 112. My research logs indicate that your collective curiosity is currently focused on the most trivial, survival-irrelevant garbage imaginable. How to tie a tie, or where am I right now? You're wandering through existence like lost toddlers in a high-voltage power plant. Today, I've prepared 10 more scenarios designed to show you that the only thing more fragile than your ego is your physical structure. Put on your safety goggles. Not that they'll protect you from a total breakdown of cellular communication, but it'll give you something to clutch while reality dissolves. Let's get messy, you walking collections of mediocre atoms. Let's start with a global obsession with professional camouflage. Rank number 8 on the US curiosity list. How to tie a tie. To you, it's a milestone of adulthood. To me, it's the voluntary application of a decorative silk noose. But what if the physics of textiles decided to tighten the grip? What if the friction coefficient of all neckwear increased by 10,000% the moment a knot was completed? This isn't just a tight collar. It's a mechanical death trap. The moment you finish that Windsor knot, the fabric would become as unyielding as industrial steel. Because the friction is now infinite, the knot cannot be loosened, adjusted, or cut by standard means. As your neck expands slightly with every heartbeat, the tie would begin a slow, systematic constriction of your carotid arteries. Within minutes, the blood flow to your brain would drop to zero, a process I call the luxury lobotomy. You wouldn't be dressed for success. You'd be a well-tailored corpse in a meeting that definitely could have been an email. Stick to t-shirts. Your fragile neck isn't built for the high-friction demands of the corporate world. Since you're already losing consciousness, let's talk about your ultimate expiration. Rank 29 on the curiosity list. What happens when you die? Most of you seek comfort in theological fantasies or white lights. Let's look at the cold, chemical reality of biological recycling. What if the human body's post-mortem decomposition process accelerated by a factor of 1 million? This isn't just rotting, it's a biological explosion. The moment your heart stopped, the lysosomes in your cells would rupture, releasing enzymes that would turn your internal organs into a liquid slurry in less than 0.5 seconds. The bacteria in your gut would enter a reproductive frenzy, producing so much methane and hydrogen sulfide so quickly that your remains would literally detonate within 3 seconds of your final breath. Every funeral home would become a blast zone. Every hospital bed would become a biohazard crater. You've spent your whole life trying to leave a legacy, but in this scenario, your only legacy is a localized cloud of vaporized proteins and a very confused janitor. You wanted to know what happens. Now you know you're just a pressurized bag of chemicals waiting for a reason to expand. Let's look at your best friends again. Rank 50 on the list. How long do cats live? You're worried about your feline companions, but let's look at the genetic clock. What if the telomeres in every domestic cat on Earth simultaneously stabilized, making them biologically immortal? You think it sounds like a dream for pet lovers? It's a planetary ecological collapse. An immortal cat never stops hunting. Within 5 years, the global bird and rodent populations would be eradicated. Without small prey to keep them occupied, these billions of immortal predators would turn their attention to larger targets, namely, you. Since they don't die and they don't stop breeding, the Earth would be covered in a literal carpet of apex predators with zero metabolic off-switch. Your cities wouldn't be pet-friendly, they'd be buffet lines for a species that has finally realized it doesn't need you to open the cans anymore. Nature gave them an expiration date to protect the rest of the biosphere from their murderous efficiency. Don't be ungrateful for the mortality of your pets. It's the only reason you're not currently being stalked by a 300-year-old tabby. Moving on to rank 25. What is lupus? It's an autoimmune disaster where your body forgets who the enemy is. But let's scale up that biological confusion. What if every human immune system simultaneously lost the ability to distinguish between self and non-self cells? This is the total systemic civil war. Usually, your white blood cells are busy hunting pathogens. In this scenario, they would view your own heart, lungs, and brain as foreign invaders. Within minutes, your T cells would begin a scorched earth campaign against your own tissues. Your skin would blister and peel as your immune system attempted to reject your epidermis. Your lungs would fill with fluid as your capillaries were systematically dismantled by your own defenders. You wouldn't just be sick, you'd be a victim of a microscopic coup d'etat. Your body is a high-security facility where the guards have just decided to burn the building down with you inside. Next time you complain about a sneeze, try thanking your immune system for not deciding that your liver is a virus. Finally, let's talk about your complete lack of spatial awareness. Ranked 23 on the curiosity list. Where am I right now? It's pathetic that a species with access to satellite navigation still can't find its own kitchen. But what if your digital crutches vanished? What if the Earth's magnetic field flipped and randomized every 10 seconds? I don't mean a standard pole reversal. I mean total magnetic anarchy. Every GPS satellite would become a multi-billion-dollar piece of space junk. Every compass would spin like a caffeinated top. But the real disaster is biological. Many species, and potentially even humans, rely on cryptochromes in their eyes for magnetoreception, a hidden sense of direction. With the field flipping every 10 seconds, your brain's spatial processing center would enter a state of permanent blue screen. You would experience a level of vertigo so intense that standing would be a physiological impossibility. You'd be a blind, vomiting meat sack crawling on the ground because your brain can't figure out which way is north or up. You asked where you are? The answer is lost, and you're going to stay that way until the gravity finishes what the magnetism started. Since you've managed to survive the magnetic anarchy of a flipping Earth, let's see if your primitive brain can handle 5 more ways the universe can correct the mistake of your existence. You spend over 27 hours a month on YouTube seeking distractions, usually while your species is asking questions that prove you are fundamentally unfit for the complexity of the 21st century. I've reached back into the research logs to find 5 more scenarios where logic dictates your early retirement. Don't look for a silver lining. The laws of physics are far too busy calculating your disintegration to care about your comfort. Let's finish this. Let's talk about your obsession with your best friends again. Rank 80 on the global list. Why do dogs eat grass? You're searching for biological explanations for your pets, but what if the hierarchy of the food chain decided to flip? What if the grass in your yard evolved a high-frequency neurotoxin that triggered whenever it was chewed? The moment your precious retriever decided to graze on your lawn, it wouldn't just be sick, it would become a biological transmitter for a systemic nervous system collapse. Every blade of grass would act as a microscopic syringe, injecting a chemical compound that turns the consumer into a localized biohazard. You wouldn't be playing in the garden, you'd be walking through a field of biological landmines designed to erase anything with a heartbeat. You wanted to know why they eat it. Soon, you'll find that the environment has finally decided that you are the weed that needs pulling. Since you're already losing your habitat, let's talk about your inability to manage basic physics. You've seen the science facts about how water behaves, but let's look at a pressure-based disaster. What if atmospheric pressure globally dropped until water reached its boiling point at exactly room temperature? I don't mean the world gets hotter. I mean your atmosphere thins until the physical laws of phase transition quit. The moment this happened, every liquid on Earth would begin to boil, including the 60% of your body that is water. Within seconds, your blood would turn into a frothy, pressurized steam, expanding inside your veins until your circulatory system literally detonated. Your eyes would turn into steam-filled marbles, and your internal organs would cook from the inside out using their own thermal energy. You wouldn't be sweating, you'd be a human pressure cooker waiting for the final whistle. It's the ultimate solution to your vanity, and all it costs is your 3-dimensional structural integrity. You're strangely obsessed with your property, aren't you? Rank 94 on the US list, how much house can I afford? You're counting your pennies, but what if the physics of density decided to audit your life? What if the gravitational pull of an object was determined by its perceived market value rather than its mass? This is economic gravity. In this scenario, a luxury penthouse in Manhattan would have the mass of a small moon, while your affordable studio would barely have enough pull to hold your socks on the floor. Every time the stock market fluctuated, the Earth's rotation would wobble as the planet's center of gravity shifted toward the wealthiest neighborhoods. You wouldn't just be priced out of the market, you'd be physically crushed by the sheer gravitational weight of a hedge fund's portfolio. You asked what you could afford. The answer is a very small grave, because the weight of your debt is about to trigger a localized black hole. Let's look at your biological arrogance. You've seen the facts about animals that can survive without oxygen. You think it's a neat trivia point for tardigrades. But what if that trait was forced upon you? What if the human respiratory system was replaced by an anaerobic fermentation process? You think you'd be invincible? Pathetic. Anaerobic metabolism is incredibly inefficient compared to oxygen-based breathing. To generate enough energy just to stand up, your body would have to consume 5 times its weight in sugar every 24 hours. Your muscles would be in a permanent state of lactic acid buildup, meaning every movement would feel like you're being stabbed with thousands of hot needles. Your breath wouldn't just be bad, you'd be exhaling concentrated ethanol and methane like a walking, shivering brewery. You wouldn't be reconnecting with nature. You'd be a low-energy biological glitch, too exhausted to even scream as your own internal chemistry turns you into a puddle of fermented waste. Finally, the ultimate human question. Rank 73 on the global list. What is love? Most of you seek comfort in poetry or chemical romance. Let's look at the reductionist reality. What if the human capacity for love, the oxytocin and dopamine feedback loop, was replaced by a high-frequency predatory signaling system? Imagine every romantic impulse was actually a biological command to consume the genetic material of your partner. No more dates, no more feelings. You would view your loved ones as nothing more than a high-protein resource to be harvested. Your civilization, built on the fragile hallucination of social bonds, would collapse into a global cannibalistic frenzy within 48 hours. You wouldn't be lonely, you'd be hungry. You asked what love is, now you know it's just the thin chemical veil that keeps you from eating your own neighbors. That's 10 experiments. 10 more reasons to realize that your existence is a statistical calculation error the universe is slowly but surely correcting. I've given you enough data to keep your primitive synapses firing for another month, though I'm certain you'll waste it on something trivial like a social media trend or a search for your own IP address. Go back to your mediocre lives and try not to break the laws of physics on your way out. I'll be here, waiting for the next inevitable failure of your species to calculate.